day, everyone. This is Dawn Marie Johnson. She is a TTC worker, Toronto Transit Commission, and she started in driving the bus for City of Windsor. Hello, Dawn Marie.
Hello, and how are you?
I'm good, and you?
Very well, thank you.
That's good. I have a series of questions here I would like you to answer.
Okay.
Okay, let's start with number one. How did you get started in this career field?
I got started, I always wanted to work with children, but I didn't want to go into the classroom. So I started driving a school bus, and I really liked it, and it was an opportunity also to own my own school bus. So it started out just as a business opportunity, and then I worked my way into transit. So I drove for the Transit Windsor. I was the first Black female to drive for Transit Windsor, as far as I know, yes. And from there, I just moved up, and here I am with the TTC. When I moved from Windsor back to Brampton, I got hired on with the TTC, which is the Toronto Transit Commission.
Wow, that's a really nice story. Okay.
Thank you.
Question number two. What are some challenges that you had to overcome on the job?
Oh, wow. Some of the challenges I had to overcome on the job was verbal, physical, and emotional abuse. You know, you're carrying people from all walks of life on a daily basis. And you have people, who they're not all there. Some are mentally challenged. Some are having, issues, whether it's at home, with children, with their spouses. So, sometimes they come out in public and they would take it out on us as the operators driving the bus. We're going too slow. So the verbal and the physical and the emotional, if you're not strong enough to deal with it, it will just eat you up. Also, working in a field where it's predominantly a male field, it was hard being, a Black female. I had to stand my ground and be a part of a team, part of a family that was just, this is what we do and this is how we do it. So those were some of my major challenges that I had to overcome.
Okay, question three. What is the greatest lesson you've learned on the job? How has it changed your life?
The greatest lesson I've learned on the job. The greatest lesson I've learned on, working with the public is to treat all people equally, and to, treat them respectfully. Because just think of it, you have a homeless person coming on the bus, and here you're thinking a homeless person is coming on the bus, they're not going to pay a fare. How do you deal with that? Do you tell the person you have to pay a fare in order to ride the bus, or do you tell them they have to get off the bus? You don't know what their challenge is, so you have to give them that respect. And not 9 out of 10, but sometimes maybe 3 out of 5, they will come on and pay a fare. And that usually just makes me wonder. Don't judge. So respect, and not judging a person just by their looks, because looks are very deceiving. And it made me realize that when you judge, the same measure you're judging that person with, our Heavenly Father is going to judge us with that measure. So I just try to be fair, treat everyone equally and with respect.
Okay. Question 4. What keeps you motivated?
Ooh, what keeps me motivated? The money. But no, seriously. Seriously. I enjoy driving, and I enjoy interacting with the public. And just to know, we don't just drive. I always consider myself like a social worker, because you meet so many different people from different walks of life. We have situations where a child get lost in the subway. They become, apart from their family. So now everybody has to try and find the parents to reunite with this child. And it gives me great joy just to know that I'm a part of that team that can do that. You know, we have where people will rob banks and they'll use our vehicles as their escape vehicle. So we would get called from CPIC, which is the police, to tell us who to look for. And if we do see that person, don't open our doors, don't pick up that person. So it's very interesting, but the money. And I enjoy it. And God has been good to me, and I have no complaints.
Okay, well, thank you for answering the questions, and we were happy to have you. Have a great day. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for having me. All right.
Do you know the person featured on the Canadian $10 bill? I'll give you 3 hints. She was a Canadian civil activist, a Black businesswoman, and she was from Nova Scotia. Time's up. My name is Alyssa Mason, and I will be talking about Viola Desmond. Viola Desmond was born in 1914 in Halifax, Nova Scotia. As a young woman, she dreamed of opening a beauty salon but discovered that Nova Scotia beauty schools did not accept Black students. Instead of giving up her dream, Desmond trained as a hairdresser and beautician in Montreal and in the United States. She studied at the Field Beauty Culture School in Montreal, one of the few institutions that accepted Black students. And she went on to become a successful entrepreneur in Nova Scotia, where she opened Vi's Studio of Beauty and Culture, a Halifax beauty parlor and shop that catered to Black women. From there, she expanded her empire, founding the Desmond School of Beauty Culture, and launching a line of products sold at shops owned by her own graduates. Despite her many accomplishments, Desmond still had to contend with the racist practice of segregation, taking a stand by taking a seat. On November the 8th, 1946, Desmond, who was then 32, had some time to spare while she was waiting to get her car fixed. So she decided to catch a movie at the Roseland Theatre in New Glasgow. She sat in the slightly more expensive and implicitly whites-only section of the theater. She was asked to move, but she refused. So she was removed by force. The usher came up and said, "Miss, you are sitting in the wrong seat. You cannot sit here. That seat is more expensive." So Viola said, "Okay, I'll go pay for the difference." But when the usher came again and said, "I'm going to have to get the manager," Viola said, "Get the manager. I'm not doing anything wrong." The manager came and dragged her out of the theater, and she was arrested. She spent a night in jail and was released the next day. The charge against her was attempting to defraud the provincial government because of the 1-cent difference in the amusement tax. The justness of Desmond's cause was officially recognized in 2010 when the Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia pardoned her, removing the conviction from the historical record. In 2018, she became the first Canadian woman featured on a regularly circulating Canadian $10 bill. Desmond has also appeared on a Canadian postage stamp. She's had her own Heritage Minute, and there is even a ferry boat in Halifax, Nova Scotia named in her honor. As we celebrate Black excellence, let us take the time to honor and remember those who have paved the way for us.
A brief history of the Black Church in Canada. Black people have been a recorded part of the Canadian history since 1604, testifying to a 400-year presence in Canada. They came from 3 main groups: those living in Canada for generations and immigrants from the Caribbean and Africa. In 1775, when the American colonies rebelled against British rule, many American colonies loyal to Britain moved to Canada and took with them their slaves. After the war broke out, Britain offered freedom to any slave who joined the British forces. More than 30,000 joined. Among them were black and white loyalists, as well as the black slaves owned by white loyalists. Britain promised land, supplies, and citizenship to all loyalists, but many promises were broken, leaving both black and white loyalists disappointed. In 1786, grants were given to the whites and none to the blacks. However, 2 years later, only a third of the black settlers had received farms. In 1783, black loyalists migrated to Nova Scotia, which were predominantly of the Methodist and Baptist faith, who found themselves relegated to the second-class status in the church. Most blacks believed that through baptism they would be one and equal with the whites. 100 were baptized. Although they could attend services and receive communion, they were segregated from the whites. They were forced into galleries, set apart for the blacks, the poor, and the soldiers. By 1815, black worshippers were kept behind a partition. As white membership increased, some of the black parishioners were advised to gather for worship in their homes. Nova Scotia black turned to their own lay preachers and teachers in the segregated community to meet their spiritual needs. Upper Canada Black history story is similar to what I just read. After the War of 1812, Upper Canada ruled that being a resident of Canada, black people were deemed free. Fugitive slaves began trickling into Canada through the Underground Railway. Approximately 30,000 fugitives entered Canada between 1800 and 1860. Once the fugitive slaves reached freedom, they immediately assembled for worship. The church became an important institution in the community, providing spiritual care, education, and the social and economic organization necessary for building new communities.
Good afternoon, Dr. Swan. Thank you for joining me and allowing me to ask you a few questions. So the first question is, when did you know that you wanted to be a pharmacist?
I had a strong love for the sciences from when I was in high school, and in the ninth grade, that's when I realized that I could actually turn my love for science to help people. And it emerged when actually a family member of mine became sick, and we went to the pharmacy and they were doing the wrong med. And that's when I took it upon myself to say, I want to help people and I can help my family by being their own pharmacist. So that's where my love for pharmacy and taking care of people started, by taking care of my own.
So I know this is similar to your answer, but what intrigued you about being a pharmacist?
It was that I could still help people without touching them. So why not go to medicine? No, I chose pharmacy because I could still provide the care that people needed. And I'm from Jamaica, and people in Jamaica love to use herbal medicine. And I thought to myself that people want wellness, and by just going back to the source of the herbs that God provided us with, we could make ourselves better. So that's what really piqued my interest, was seeing the cures that could evolve as we took care of one another.
So what does success mean to you, and how do you deal with failure?
Success is a process of continuously improving myself. It's not just an end result of a goal that I've achieved, but it's a continuous improvement of myself, whether it's in my family life, my spiritual life, or my career. Success is constantly moving, doing better than I did yesterday, and it's by my own measure. It's not against anybody else's expectations, and that's what I love about, honing in on the goals that I set. I'm achieving them on my timeline. I'm achieving them on my standards. Success for me could mean that today I did 100% for my family, but I did 70% at work. And it's fine, because it's a success in an area of my life that I'm aiming to get better at. Failure is a part of life. It's a part of the process. You have to try, you have to fail. Failure gets you to a better version of myself. And I don't look at failure as a label or an end result. I think of it as a step in the process for me to change my approach, for me to think outside of the box. And oftentimes, the end result after a first attempt has failed is even better than the initial goal that I've set for myself. So failure is never an end result, and that's one thing that I always like to share with everybody in my life, that it just means to try again.
All right, so for my last question is, what do you love about your job that you do every day? Like something that you deal with every day when you go to work that you really enjoy?
I love going to work every day, and it's because of my why. And that's it. It's my why is my passion for helping others, not just my patients to get better, but also for my team. I have a large team of pharmacists and other pharmacy assistants that I work with. And it's just seeing people move on and improve themselves as well, getting on to bigger and better. And so that's why I turn up to work every day, even though it's doing the same thing, looking at the prescription, getting the drugs, counting it, and going through the process. And it's just making an impact in people's life that makes it a good thing for me every day.
So an additional question is, when you were thinking about going to school for to become a pharmacist, was it kind of like discouraging because of like how long it would take? Because I know for me, like I want to be like a neurosurgeon, so when I look at like how long it will be in school, it kind of like discourages me. So like, what kept you motivated going through school?
I think because it was expected. And because it was expected, that was a little easier. I didn't want to let my parents down. I didn't want to let myself down. And also, I like to prove that I can do it. And not just to everybody else, but I want to prove to myself that not because it's hard, I'm going to quit. If it's hard, it means that there's something better on the other side, and it will be worth it. And I think because I just love challenges. I get bored if I get the same thing. I become an expert quickly, and then I lose interest. So in order to keep myself interested, I like to go through challenging times and attack like challenging tasks. And pharmacy was challenging. It took me a total of 7 years to get my doctorate, and I could have stopped halfway at my bachelor's, but I thought to myself, the world is changing, and to always remain a step ahead, to be a bit more competitive. I ensured that I had to achieve that doctorate to get to the position that I'm in today. I wouldn't have gotten here unless I had that doctorate. So it's looking long term, not just at the 4 years down the line. You need to look and have a career plan in place. So upon leaving school, it's not just that you're going to expect a job to roll in. You have to be strategic. You have to go after what you really.
The gym teacher of Strathcona School was one of the fastest women in the world. Her name was Barbara Howard, and even at a young age, she was known for her speed. At the age of 17, Barbara Howard beat the British Empire Games record by 1/10 of a second. That race put her on the Canadian team for the 1938 British Empire Games in Sydney, Australia. To Barbara Howard's surprise, as a black female athlete rare in Australia, at the time she became a media sensation. In the 100-yard dash, Barbara came in 6th place. Barbara was determined to get gold for the 1940 Olympics in Tokyo. Sadly, the games were cancelled due to World War II. 10 years later, Barbara had retired from track and had earned an education degree at the University of British Columbia. And in 1941, Barbara became the first racialized person to be hired by the Vancouver School Board. In 2012, Barbara Howard was inducted into the BC Sports Hall of Fame. At 91, Barbara Howard finally got the recognition she deserves for a remarkable journey that took place 74 years earlier.
The Young Adult class presents to you Black Excellence in Politics and Business, where we highlight 3 notable Black Canadians. Do you know who was the first Black woman to publish a newspaper in North America? If you guessed Mary Ann Shadd Carey, you are correct. Born free in Delaware, Mary Ann Shadd became the first Black woman to publish a newspaper in North America. Her newspaper was called the Provincial Freeman. She was also a teacher who established a racially integrated school for Black children in Windsor, in addition to writing educational pamphlets promoting settlement in Canada. One of her written works includes A Plea for Immigration, written in 1852. Mary was also an activist for numerous causes, including the abolition of slavery, temperance, and education. She also became increasingly vocal about women's rights, becoming a women's suffragist. Not only did she promote these issues in the Provincial Freeman, she also spoke about them on lecture tours. Following her time in Canada, Mary decided to return to the United States, where she became a recruitment agent for the Union Army during the Civil War. She also pursued a law degree at Howard University and became one of the first Black women to complete a law degree in 1883, becoming a civil rights lawyer. Among her other firsts, she also became the first Black woman to vote in a national election. In 1994, she was designated a person of national historic significance in Canada. Do you know who was the first Black woman to be elected to Parliament in Canada? If you guessed Jean Augustine, you are correct. An educator, activist, and politician, Jean Augustine broke barriers when she became the first Black woman to be elected to Parliament in Canada during the 1993 federal election. She has been a tremendous source of inspiration, not only to me, but to a significant number of people in my community as a second Black person to come to that house. Augustine went on to become the first Black woman in cabinet, taking on the role of Minister of State for Multiculturalism and Status of Black Women. She says, and I quote, "It's important that no one be able to say that Blacks can't perform in every segment of Canadian society, because we can." A former principal, Augustine was honored by having a Brampton, Ontario secondary school named after her in 2016. Do you know who was the first known Black millionaire in Toronto? If you guessed James Mink, you are correct. James Mink was a Black man who became a respected millionaire businessman in Toronto, Ontario in the 1840s when slavery was rampant in the United States. As a young man, Mink, along with his brother George, opened hotels, liveries, operated coach services in Kingston, Ontario. He later moved to Toronto in the 1840s while his brother remained in Kingston. They transported travelers between Toronto and Kingston, the capital city of Upper Canada, which was a colony of Great Britain. The brothers transported passengers to the other's base city, meeting at the halfway point in Brighton. They exchanged passengers, procured fresh horses, and returned home with the passengers. Mink and his brother's popularity gained them the trust of fellow Canadians. The brothers were soon assigned mail runs. George would take the mail from Kingston to Montreal, while James took the mail to Kingston and other towns surrounding Toronto. James' hotel was used as a voting station in Toronto elections. The mayor even hired his coach service for his inauguration in the 1850s. Farmers outside of Toronto would stay at his hotel when they came to town to sell their produce at the farmers market. Many Torontonians used his livery service, as did the sheriff of the city. The first public transit systems were started by Mink and his brother in their home cities.
Maybe. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Christian.
Or some people know you as Alyssa Baker.
Yes, this is my son, Christian.
This is my mom, Alyssa Baker. Today we have some questions for you for Black History Month. Can I get on with the first question?
Absolutely.
Okay, first, or number one, why did you choose this profession?
I didn't choose this profession. I actually had no interest in being an educator. That's my profession. And what actually happened is I went to university. I started doing a little bit of law because I wanted to be a lawyer. And I actually didn't like it at all. And so I graduated from university, and then God told me to go into teaching. It wasn't my choice, but I have no regrets. Having decided to follow the voice of God to become an educator.
The voice of God must be powerful to change your whole life career.
Absolutely.
Or life plan.
Absolutely.
Second question, if you don't mind. What 2 words would you use to describe yourself?
Passionate and inspired. So passionate first because I really love what I do. I put everything I can into working. I'm reading, I'm learning, I'm having conversations. I've been to school many, many times to continue to grow and develop it as an educator. I'm inspired because when I see what happens as a result of the work that I do, it continues to motivate. So when I meet students on social media or in person, and they remind me of something that I did in their lives when they were in grade 6, 7, or 8, that has caused them to become who they are today, a success, that inspires me to continue to do what I do. So, yes.
You know, I'm actually in grade 7, going on to grade 8.
I hope one day I'll inspire you.
You already have.
Thank you, son.
Okay, that was very nice. A very good explanation.
Thank you.
Third question. Can you outline your ultimate career goal or goals?
Interestingly, I've hit where I want to be. I've been an educator for 16 years, and I've been in administration for 5, of which I recently was promoted to principal. At this point, this is where I want to be. I really want to be able to make an impact at a school level, to work with families, teachers, a community, and to be able to make some change in the community and in the lives of students. So at this point, I think I'm where I want to be.
Mm-hmm. So where are you right now?
As a principal at Charles H. Best Junior Middle School.
I see you represent. Represent. Okay. Number 4. What do you love about your job, and how do you balance work, church, and family life?
Oh, I love everything about my job. Except the part that I don't like about my job sometimes is the paperwork that goes with my job. It takes me away from actually being able to spend a lot of time with the students. However, I know that's a necessary part of the job. How do I balance everything? Work-life balance is very important. I always put God first. God is the most important part of who I am. Without God, I wouldn't be anything. I attribute my success only to God because God has made ways, opened doors for me along my career journey. So I put God first. I often try to make the most time for God, and somehow he is able to multiply the time, or he shortens what I need to do. So he gives me the creativity, whatever I need to do to be able to accomplish my job. And then I have my family. So I try to get home at a reasonable hour and to spend time with my family, because they are also very important and they are an essential part of who I am. They are an extension of me.
I can vouch for her. She does come home at a good time.
Thank you.
So thank you for this, and good job to hearing God's voice.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of Black Excellence.
Yes.
This is such an honor. Thank you very much, Christian.
Just remember to follow us follow Black Excellence at our Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and Facebook.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
remember to leave a like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. Bye.